Well, this is the deck off the 430, and it happens to be a really old deck, which has the old style mounting hardware, which is only a 3/8 bolt. I ended up having to weld this one onto the bottom because the carriage bolt shot, and it was just easier. And I think both pulleys were shot. This one is still shot, but I just replaced that one, which is nice now. And I think the main reason it blew is that this thing isn't pivoting. It's totally stuck. And I'm going to have to heat this up and try to pry this thing off of there. I can't even get it to move. So that will be my next thing here. I'm just going to get my torch out and start heating this, and we'll see what we can do, you know. But what do you want for a deck that's from 1968 or some ridiculous thing like that? So, you know, it's 45, 48 years old, whatever it is. Almost 50 years old, actually. 49 years old. So what do you expect? So I'm going to end up throwing a new belt on here. I'll grease up all my spindles. It still has old crappy blades on there. I don't care. It's good enough for what I'm doing. And I'm going to try to mount it on the 450 and see if we can mow the lawn. I had a pulley that's made by Rotary, and it had this extra nub on here, which I ended up having to cut off, because when it was on this arm that already has an offset in it, it would stick out too far and hit the deck. So I'm going to just mount the flush factory side here against that arm and let this other side that I cut be down against the bottom of the deck. If you see the original pulley, it doesn't have a nub on either side for this one, and it threads into this arm. I had to heat up this arm with the oxyacetylene torch in order to get it off, and it's still hot, I think, so I'll use these pliers to hold it. But I'm going to have to clean up the inside of that bore there. I think I'll just take a little round file and just kind of hit it for a few seconds all around. And yeah, it's kind of funny when you look at this, how screwed up they were with that bore. It's not even close to being centered. Maybe they just eyeball it or something, I don't know, but it's off quite a bit from being centered. I can see that with my bare eyes. But anyways, that will make this thing go back together. And they had this bolt in here that has a hole drilled in it for a cotter pin to go through it. Not sure what the point of that is. It already has threads in here and then a nut that went up against the back of it. So why you need a cotter pin too, I don't know, but this bolt is actually good enough to reuse, so I'll reuse it. Well, I got it all freed up now, and I got my new Kevlar belt on there, so that should be good. And I'll just hit that with some grease, and all I did was take a wire brush here, over there, right onto this shaft here, and cleaned it up. Most likely, because this thing is sitting outside, water just got down there and froze her up. But we got our both of our new idler pulleys on here, so we should be in pretty good shape. And believe it or not, this deck really isn't that rotted considering it's original. So I'll see if I can get the top plate back on there, and we'll tighten her up and be done. Alright, so I got it all back together. What a pain in the butt, huh? So I needed an oxyacetylene torch, a welder, all kinds of crap to just get 4 bolts out of a deck and change 2 pulleys and put a bolt on. So it happens when you work on old stuff. So I got this greased up nice, and you can see if I apply tension to the belt that the idler actually moves, which is good news. And I got, you know, what I ended up doing is just putting regular 3/8 bolts up there instead of the carriage bolts. I was able to reuse the other carriage bolt on the back, so I got both the original 3/8 bolts back there. And this is an aftermarket belt, a Kevlar belt that I bought on Amazon, 126 inch by 1/2 inch AK 124 or 4LK 1260. And I've used these a number of times now, and they work fine. The only tip I'll say is that after you use it a couple times, check your tension. And it's nice having a good idler that doesn't rock. The old one was going like this, and surely that's just sitting there changing the belt tension every time it, you know, makes a revolution. So this should be good. And I think in order to put this on the 450, I got to change the back wheels so that they go in instead of out, which sucks, but we'll see. I'm going to measure the distance here between the two wheels on this thing, and I've got, I don't know, let's say 45.5 inches, 46 inches. And that's the outside. If I measure the inside diameter here, let's see, I've got maybe 40.5. So if I come over here to the 450, you can see how wide that rear wheelbase is here. And if I was to measure between them, I got about 26.5. If I was to attempt to measure from side to side, I got about 43. So as is, those wheels are not going to fit in here without running. So before I even attempt to move the wheels or try to put the deck on, you can see this wheel on this side is pretty much lined up with the back tire. And this side here has got about a 1/2 inch of play. So I'm going to have to turn those wheels around before I attempt to do this. And if I come over here and look at this 430 that the deck came off of, the wheels are turned around and it fits. So it's going to lose a little bit of its badass stance that it had before, but it will still be mint. So let me jack up the back and take those wheels off and we'll go from there. The wheel is flipped around and this side of the wheel looks kind of crappy. Let's check our width now. So now you can see that the back tires are well within those wheels. So I'm going to try to push it over the deck and see if it will fit. Well, I put a little bit of air in the tire and conveniently the tube just busted right through the freaking tread and it's leaking. You can hear it hissing, but whatever. Let's get this thing together. Alright, so we got the deck hooked up finally. What a pain in the butt. This 450 is supposed to have an electric lift on there, which isn't functional, so I've unhooked it and I'm just using the manual lift lever. But there is no push button on the top of it because it's not supposed to be functioning. So all I did was basically like just put the stop on the height control there to where I thought maybe it looks like a reasonable spot. I still don't have the voltage regulator hooked up. I got these two wires here that will go to it all ready to roll. I just got to bolt one in there and hook it up to the key switch. But for now, I really just want to hook up my battery and just drive around. But I also don't have a seat on this bad boy, which will be really comfortable when mowing. So we'll see what we can do just to test it.